There will be two parts for today's program. First is the nominees' presentation of their respective VMGs for CAC. The order of presentation was determined by a tossing of coin between the two nominees before the start of this program. The second part is the open forum where stakeholders will be given the opportunity to get to know our nominees better. The committee has collected questions through a Google form which was sent to stakeholders on July 7, and they will be read during the open forum. J.R. Galietas will be the moderator for the Q&A portion for the on-site attendees, and Ms. Lumapas and Ms. Manzano for the online questions from Zoom, FB, and YouTube. Let me introduce to you our two nominees led by Ruth Tindaan. She's an associate professor at the University of the Philippines, Baguio, CAC Department of Language, Literature, and the Arts. She holds a doctorate in cultural studies from Goldsmiths University of London. Ruth has held administrative positions at UP Baguio, including Director of Cordillera Studies Center, Chair of the Department of Language, Literature, and the Arts, and CAC College Secretary. She has also published several works and contributed to various committees at UP Baguio, such as the University Library Council, PhD Indigenous Studies Comprehensive Examination Committee, Academic Personnel and Fellowship Committee, and Research Ethics Committee. Ruth has presented papers at various conferences and completed several research projects. In addition to her academic work, she serves as a peer reviewer for Philippine Studies and Southeast Asia Research Journal and as a resource speaker for Indigenous peoples, Indigenous knowledge, and the integration of Indigenous studies in higher education curricula. Our second nominee is Ayo Hularbal, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Language, Literature, and the Arts. Ayo is a PhD Philippine Studies candidate at the University of the Philippines Diliman Tri-College. He has served as chairperson of the UPB Committee on Culture and the Arts and head of the Cordillera Studies Center program for Language and Literature. He has also served as a researcher and resource person at the National Archives of the Philippines and the UP System-Wide Champion for PI 100. Ayo has also served as a module designer and trainer at the Knowledge Training Resource Center, World Food Program, and Baguio General Hospital Department of Psychiatry. Ayo has published and presented several research and creative works and has also served as a facilitator, trainer, and resource person in various conferences and workshops. He has also contributed to the formulation of the Division Indigenous Peoples Education Framework, Traditional Health Practices in Teaching Humanities for the Philippine K-12 program. We now move on to the VMG presentation. So meron lang kaming request. The committee requests that on-site audience reserve their applause after the two nominees have presented their VMGs. We also request that you kindly turn your cell phones on silent mode. I now call on Ruth to present her VMG. Siya po yung nanalo sa toss coin.
Good morning and thank you for being with us this morning. My VMG is titled Towards a Transformative Education at the College of Arts and Communication, UP Baguio. I started teaching at the College of Arts and Communication in June 2003. Around 7 months after then, UP College Baguio gained its status as the 7th constituent university of the UP system in December 2002. It could therefore be said that CAC and I are contemporaries who started our careers almost at the same time at UP Baguio. I had a poignant reminder of my career journey with CAC when in December 2023, I received Service and Loyalty Awards on this very stage for 20 years of service. Throughout those 20 years, I have seen and experienced transformations in our college, which inform the agenda I present to you now. A more literal transformation in our college is the fact that this venue used to be a galvanized iron makeshift classroom where I carried a heavy overhead projector from our then faculty room, which is now the Human Resources and Development Office. Huge, red, fragrant American guavas that have fallen all over the doorstep ushered me into my teaching day. But overripe guavas and heavy overhead projectors hardly start our teaching days now, and I don't suppose they should. But for me, this difference is a vivid indication of our changed conditions and the different circumstances we now need to face. As a college, we have articulated that our vision is for the College of Arts and Communication becoming a creative hub of transformative education, molding responsible citizens in a sustainable society. And that our mission is to instill ethics and accountability, critical and creative skills, and strong cultural roots and purpose among future Filipino communicators, language and literature scholars, and artists. As prospective dean of the college, I affirm my commitment to this vision mission, and I propose priorities for the next 3 years, which I think will lead us towards the achievement of our college vision and mission. Priority 1, inform, involve, and inspire teaching staff. Transformative education involves instruction and learning that encourage students' intellectual as well as social and personal development. Beyond knowing content, students must also acquire values and skills that will enable them to thrive in an increasingly complex environment and to behave as responsible members of society. Academic institutions like our college are therefore expected to restructure our teaching, ensuring that our curriculum, pedagogy, learning materials, and learning environments are meaningful in the natural, political, economic, and cultural context. To facilitate transformative education, we in the college should prioritize faculty empowerment, which entails continuing professional development, collegial support, and collective academic involvement. In the next 3 years, we look forward to the completion of PhD degrees by colleagues who have been on study leave, as well as completion of MA degrees by those who have been supported to enroll in their own programs. In addition to acquisition of advanced degrees, the faculty will benefit from sustained mentoring mechanism for sharing insights and best practices for excellent teaching. To this end, I will call for regular faculty meetings not only for the teaching staff to act on routine academic matters, but to encourage a collective intellectual engagement with our pedagogical goals. We should read about and discuss among ourselves the implications of current developments in the teaching of the arts, humanities, and communication. We should, for instance, engage in a critical discussion about the role of the humanities in coping with a volatile and uncertain world, or the relevance of the humanities in a world that is increasingly overseen with algorithms. In these meetings, we should also reflect on our teaching practices, our challenges, and possible responses. This meeting should be a venue for our professional socialization, where we do mutual and supportive processing of teaching challenges, as well as celebrating teaching achievements. Although our practical goal is for all faculty members to gain very good to excellent set scores, we want to hear qualitative feedback that affirm quality on course content and teaching. But more importantly, we want to see the quality of teaching manifested in the motivation, resilience, and enthusiasm of both our students and teachers. Apart from nurturing quality teaching, faculty mentoring should also include the enhancement of research engagement and creative production through collaborative work between and among senior and junior faculty. With a track record in research and creative production, senior faculty will be encouraged to spearhead research or creative team projects where junior faculty can have an experiential route to learning, research, and creative skills. They will have an opportunity to be involved in the process from writing proposals for funding to writing research reports or producing creative work that will eventually be turned into publishable articles, endured exhibitions, or performances. In this way, we can enrich our teaching capability through experience and insight gained from doing actual research and creative work, as well as increase the number and spread the reach of our publication and creative work outputs. From these academic outputs, we can likewise sustain our current notable performance in the number and quality of presentations in reputable conferences with support from research dissemination grants. Faculty empowerment also entails being informed about matters that are relevant to the institution and to the exercise of duties, rights, and responsibilities. To this end, I intend to keep the faculty fully informed by sending immediate written reports that cascade relevant information taken up in regular executive staff meetings and other meetings where matters relevant to the faculty and institution are discussed. Similarly, I will forward relevant documents and call for dedicated meetings on matters that require discussion, consultation, and action. I believe that full and transparent communication will not only foster an awareness among our faculty about the administration of our college and university, but will also inform their perspective on circumstances surrounding specific concerns. I have observed that gaps in communication sometimes breed speculation, misunderstanding, or confusion. Thus, my goal is to facilitate consistency of communication between university and college levels to inspire inclusion, participation, and even critique, which are values that I deem important in motivating a responsive college administration. Priority 2, enhance and quality assured academic programs. With faculty members equipped with relevant qualifications and possessing a collegial outlook, transformative education will also be achieved with quality enhancement of our curricular programs. We have worked hard in reviewing and revising our AUNQA self-assessment report drafts for BA Com, BA Language and Literature, and Bachelor of Fine Arts programs. We look forward to the local external quality assessment of these undergraduate programs in December 2024 and the international external quality assessment in November 2025 with the full awareness of the faculty on the content of the SAR document and collective participation in finalizing the SAR, including participation in AUNQA workshops and meetings. As we have often said in these meetings, we bear in mind that our interest is not solely meeting externally prescribed standards, but creating an educational landscape that fosters real transformation. With feedback from these scheduled local and international assessments, we will pursue prospective curricular revisions of these programs, including the MA Language and Literature program. We aim to have written proposals for these curricular revisions within the 3-year period. We also consider pursuing the early phases of an MA communication program proposed after looking into the initial work that was done by the Department of Communication on this matter. Priority 3, enrich student learning. Education can only be transformative when students are included in the learning community as full and active members. We will foster a culture of open dialogue with students to ensure that we understand their conditions and encourage their involvement for effective learning. It is important for us to consider student response to our blended mode of learning. In our college assessment last July 1, it was noted that student feedback indicate issues with some course content and teaching quality, despite the comprehensive course packs that were prepared by faculty, and despite reports of excellent set scores overall. As suggested earlier, we should look into this feedback during our faculty discussions and think through the appropriate course of action. Because we want to inculcate ethical practice, critical and creative skills, and strong cultural roots and purpose among our students, we take the formation of these values into strong consideration in our continuing efforts to rethink and redesign our course content and instruction. It is also imperative that these values should exude from our own committed practice. Student learning will also be enriched with continued incorporation of service learning into our educational framework. With this scheme, we cultivate a sense of social responsibility as part of students' academic formation. By providing students with internship opportunities or real-world applications of theoretical knowledge, we enable them to link academic understanding with practical application. This approach not only enhances their skill set, but also develops critical thinking and problem-solving abilities that are essential for success in a rapidly evolving world. Our utilization of digital tools and resources likewise encourages self-directed learning and prepares students for the demands of a future that is largely driven by technology. To support improved learning, we will strive to provide quality infrastructure through the repair, upgrade, and maintenance of necessary equipment in college learning facilities. We will explore means of maximizing limited space in the college for student study and socialization purposes. We will call on the generosity of our alumni and other possible benefactors in our network to help ease our constraints in resources. I look forward to picking up discussion with our university officials about how CAC figures into the overall infrastructure plan of UP Baguio. Priority 4, efficient college processes. To ensure the efficiency of college processes, we will support the continued training of our support staff and concerned faculty in new or improved systems of data management, systematic filing of documents, and maintenance of college database. We'll also encourage the acquisition of stackable courses that can enable further efficiency and can support their chances for career development. We will also look into the workload of support staff and consider ways of rationalizing tasks in relation to staff capacity. We will implement a practice of advanced planning of college activities and events prior to opening of academic years. We'll drop a calendar that plots schedules, events, responsible persons, and other details to facilitate proper and timely preparations, as well as prior reservation of required facilities and early announcements. We also aim to avoid delays in the processing of basic papers and other documentary matters, especially those that relate to personnel benefits and compensation. We will ensure that our college processes and decisions are informed by codal provisions and relevant university guidelines. A document we need to work on before long is the formal articulation of our college research agenda, which will guide and inspire the research engagements of our faculty. Priority 5, engage extension programs. President Jimenez's flagship program on arts and culture emphasizes the role of UP campuses in fostering the art and cultural life, especially of their immediate communities. With our fine arts, language, and literature and communication programs, together with the performance repertoire of Dulang UP Baguio and the literary efforts of the Cordillera Creative Writing Workshops, our college is in an excellent position to sustain a vibrant art and culture experience, not only for the campus community, but also the larger Baguio, Cordillera, and Northern Luzon communities. Our summer arts program, now the CAC Arts Workshop, has always been anticipated, and we will augment the arts workshops with the provision of micro-credentialing programs for teachers of art, communication, language, and literature. Basic education teachers may earn their continuing professional development units by taking short-term teaching courses to be offered. There is also an intention to create and offer mass open online courses such as writing laboratories to support the accumulation of micro-credentials among interested parties. CAC faculty have always provided extension service on their individual capacities, but in addition to these efforts, we aim to move more towards institutionalized and collaborative public service, such as in helping to elevate the quality of undergraduate education in neighboring SUCs and in the rollout of capacity building assistance to government agencies and local government units. For instance, we can look at the possible role in assisting municipal governments in crafting their risk communication protocols for disaster risk reduction and management. As a college, we have the proficiency for language and communication, which are important skills to impart with government offices whose fulfillment of mandate rely on the staff's proper articulation and communication of ideas. We subscribe to scholarship of engagement, which prioritizes the mobilization of expertise in the service of the nation. I wish to end by acknowledging colleagues and leaders of our college whose scholarship, leadership, and commitment I had the privilege to witness and learn from. I also work in various capacities with colleagues in other colleges from whom I gained an equal measure of knowledge, skills, and inspiration. At this moment of call for duty to move the college forward beyond fallen overripe guavas and heavy overhead projectors, I find courage in the thought that I have grown in a community with role models. Finally, I thank my colleagues for the confidence in my ability to lead our college, and I reiterate my commitment to the work that needs to be done in the next 3 years should I be chosen as the next Dean of CAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. I now call on our next nominee, Ayo Holarbal, for his VMG presentation.
The title of my presentation is The College of Arts and Communication, a foundation of time-honored tradition, enduring excellence, and continuing innovation. The University of the Philippines Baguio College of Arts and Communication has been and continues to be an integral part of my life. As a former student and eventually a tenured faculty member, I owe what I am today, both professionally and personally, to the teachings, learnings, and trainings that have been inculcated to me for more than 20 years. As an institution, the word family for me best describes what the CAC is, an environment which has become my second home, where learning and discipline work hand in hand with the virtues of compassion, benevolence, and community, putting the aspect of what is human in humanities. Having had the opportunity to work with exemplary academics in the field of language, literature, arts, and communication, as well as a student body which engenders our best hopes for the future, the CAC for me embodies a tradition of excellence and institutional pride that deserves to be continually remembered and denoted as core structures, even as the college moves towards the future and forward to inevitable progress. My vision is for the College of Arts and Communication to be transformed and recognized as the center of academic excellence and innovation in the fields of language, literature, arts, and communication studies in Northern Luzon. With its reach and influence radiating beyond local borders. This is supported by a mission that aims to maintain its traditional roots of instruction as well as its academic learnings founded on cultural and indigenous knowledges while forging new paths towards modernity and innovation. The commitment to deliver and maintain quality and excellence in the delivery of academic instruction has always been part of the CAC's DNA. But such a commitment can be made more relevant with the inclusion of a more active participation with the larger community, engaging in fields of cultural, as well as indigenous knowledge-based research and establishing sustainable networks, partnerships, and linkages. The college aims to correlate its goals with the larger ideals and aims of the university, consciously taking into consideration strategic plans on the enhancement and advancement of academic instruction, research, and the conscious and responsible production of literary and creative works. Quality assurance, both stemming from both internal and external assessments, should be taken into account as these are major sources of standards that secure and guarantee sustainability and continuing relevance for the college. But the ideals of self-determination as well as uniqueness in terms of academic culture should also be part of the designs for moving forward, as these are the sources of identity and distinctiveness that the college exudes. Recognition as an academic niche. The strength of the college lies in the preservation of its fundamental adherence to quality instruction based on a well-versed, talented, and formidable teaching staff, endowed with the ability and openness to evolve and move forward with the times, exploring avenues at contemporary modes of educational and academic innovation. Weight should be given equally in the aspects of both faculty and non-teaching staff improvement through strategic training and benchmarking, continuous curricular innovation, which targets the evolving needs of current and future students, as well as exploring avenues at enhancing programs that address needs of the community, as well as its sustainability that will address enrollment attrition and to seek greater avenues for income generation. The presence of the college in communities across the Cordillera and Northern Luzon through the implementation of relevant and discipline-specific extension programs, as well as the conceptualization of projects that are responsive to the needs of the community, to build partnerships that result in sustainable and practicable knowledge, addressing the need for program recall and recognition. The establishment of sustainable ties with greater academic community, both here and abroad, should also be emphasized, seizing opportunities for both faculty and student exchange programs, and forging cooperative ties in collaborative research and creative projects. Excellence through innovation also implies a pivot towards digital technologies as part of the institution's retooling and expertise building. The integration of digital technologies is inevitable and necessary for development and growth. A premium on addressing the college's technological requirements, the necessary training for its use and provision for relevant equipment. Research as well as creative work and its outcomes, such as peer-reviewed publications and juried exhibitions, should be addressed by the college in terms of mustering with the proper motivation, support, and assistance towards individuals engaged in these pursuits. The college should explore the idea of a written college research agenda that would also serve in steering projects into more relevant and up-to-date avenues of academic inquiry. Incentives on output should be taken from the proper reward systems, including well-deserved recognition. Resources for faculty development, particularly towards establishing an aggressive collegiate research culture, can be made possible with expanded and broadened academic network that provides options for the faculty to willingly engage in scholarship relevant to their fields. The human in humanities. Inclusivity ensures organizational cohesion. A respect for diversity and the rights of the individual should be continually upheld, taking into consideration a broader respect for identities, gender, as well as occupational dignity. The voice of diversity should not be muted and instead must be given broader avenues for empowerment, creative expression, collaboration, as well as engagement. I see myself as being present and readily available to address gaps in the system, to build consensus, and to open channels of communication. This intermediary role extends beyond the college towards other colleges, the CU, and the university system itself. Ensuring wellness among students, faculty, and staff is necessary for collective growth and development. At the very least, this will lend clarity in apprehending the goals and aspirations of the college, and at the very most, this forges the environment of camaraderie, charitable involvement, as well as an overall sense of purpose and collective achievement. Each one is important and deserves to be heard. The establishment of CAC as a safe space that supports positive work and study culture is necessary for an individual to gain confidence in communicating concerns of any nature. This starts by establishing a safe and conducive physical workspace that leans towards encouraging warm bodies to stay in the comfort of the shelter that the infrastructure provides. I believe that this condition of security impels a sense of well-being among our stakeholders. The student, faculty, and staff whose well-being is in a state of equilibrium could accomplish not just more, but better tasks, which in turn translates into the overall well-being of the college. Including the upkeep of the physical safety of students, faculty, and staff, I propose the revival of the CAC Safety and Disaster Committee, as well as the augmentation of security personnel. Protection services offered by the college should also be designed to cater to instances where off-campus instances of red tagging, harassment, and gender prejudice, to name a few. Close and effective ties with the UP Legal Department, Kasarian, and the OWASH are thoroughly re-emphasized and prioritized. Our home away from home, infrastructure improvement and development. The college's edifices provide the first and lasting impressions on its occupants' capabilities and competencies. The current state of our infrastructure is that it is in dire need of improvement. CAC facilities should be constructed to be compliant with engineering criteria as well as being at par with standards of occupancy. My immediate priority, therefore, is functionality and safety. As I have said, a better working and learning environment would contribute much to improved overall well-being, leading to better learning and learning outcomes. We want our students, staff, and faculty to consider the facilities as a safe haven that fosters an environment of learning, peace, and comfort. The improvement of overall structure should also take into consideration the establishment of breathing spaces or open spaces, provide durable, and may I emphasize on the word durable, locker and storage facilities for students, as well as improved sanitation facilities that can accommodate both students, faculty, and staff with regular potable water supply. Acknowledging the limitation of the entire UP Baguio land area, I envision some spaces to be multifunctional in the sense that some of our spaces can be event areas and at the same time function as student lounges or if organized activities are not held. The locations could be utilized during university or college functions and not just student organization events. These spaces can also double as locations for income generating activities. The upcoming rainy season presents much cause for the expediency of repairs and renovations. Flood mitigation as well as rain shelters are issues that the CAC infrastructure need to address immediately. The CAC and beyond. The involvement and engagement of the CAC in the larger community provides avenues not only for immersion, skills sharing, and establishing partnerships, but also create potentials for resource generation. To this end, partnerships with university networks, LGUs, and communities within and outside Northern Luzon should be strengthened and revitalized, as such networks create cooperation and partnerships that not only strengthen bonds with the community, but also provide a sense of purpose and pride for the college. The promotion and advancement of culture, communication, media, arts, and indigenous knowledge have been known to be the domain of CAC and has contributed much to the elevation of the Cordillera into national consciousness. We aim to revitalize this distinction in revitalizing this identity and to bring back humanities into the CAC ideology, regarding this as a primary source for the advancement in cultural consciousness, tradition, innovation, and development. The realities of the effects of the pandemic, coupled with the challenges of enrollment attrition, resource allocation, as well as time-sensitive faculty development, and the need to shore up a deteriorating infrastructure are among the major challenges confronting the college's leadership moving forward. But we must set our priorities straight and start now, because dealing with these issues require that we address them incrementally but aggressively, ensuring that every little step means relevant change, and with the greatest positive impact among our stakeholders. Time is an important resource which should not be wasted. Thus, we should hit the ground running with all hands on deck. And as my leadership philosophy goes, effective leadership requires the person at helm to be capable of listening and learning with a continual emphasis that deanship is a position of service and not an entitlement. I urge you to tell me more, for I do not have the monopoly of insight. Your thoughts provide a clear vision which we could translate into relevant action. Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you to our two nominees for presenting their very comprehensive VMGs for the college. At this point, we're going to take a 5-minute break as you think about questions that you would like to ask our nominees. There's coffee po and bread outside. We resume after 5 minutes for the open forum. Thank you. resume now for the open forum portion of today's activity. Let me read out some guidelines for this portion. First is the committee encourages questions that directly pertain to issues or concerns regarding the nominees' VMG presentations. Please be guided by the following. First is the use of respectful language when asking questions or expressing opinions. Maintain a constructive tone throughout the forum, and nominees may opt not to respond to inappropriate or personal questions. Listen actively to others before formulating your own questions and avoid asking questions that have already been raised and responded to. Seek clarification if you're not fully satisfied with the response or responses of our nominees. The committee aims to consider diverse perspectives and ensure all voices are heard and respected. Aside from questions from the on-site audience, we will monitor and read questions from online platforms and also the questions collected from the Google form. Each nominee will be given 2 minutes to respond to a question. For questions addressed to both nominees, they will alternate in answering questions. At 11:50, I will ask the final question. The committee will give a copy of all other questions that have not been responded to. They will give a copy to the nominees. For on-site audience who wish to ask questions, raise your hand and JR will approach you with the mic. Identify yourself and the sector you represent. Formulate and state your question to be concise and direct to the point. For online audience, type your questions in the chat box of Zoom or the comment section of Facebook and YouTube. Our moderators will read them out for you. Like on-site questions, formulate your questions to be concise and direct. I will also alternately read out questions sent in via Google form, distributed by the committee to stakeholders. Yun naman pong mga on-site audience who wish to just write down their questions, may mga papel po outside. So, sulat lang po yung tanong at ibigay kay Jim. Siya na po yung The committee thanks the Chancellor for being present with us today, as well as other administrators of UP Baguio, and of course, our Dean who is with us also this year. Okay, we begin with a question from the Google form. This is for both nominees. The question says, I wish to ask this question to know how well you know and care about your college, our college. How will you evaluate the state or condition of the college now and in the past 5 to 10 years? Then how will you use that evaluation to plan or set a vision for the next 3 to 5 years? Siguro 3 years lang kasi yun lang yung term ng dean. Lumalampas po tayo. Ulitin kong tanong. I wish to ask this question to know how well you know and care about our college. How will you evaluate the state or condition of the college now and in the past 5 to 10 years? Then how will you use that evaluation to plan or set a vision for the next 3 years? Siguro since si Ruth yung nauna kanina, si Ayo naman ang unang sasagot.
Yes, as far as the question is concerned, how far do I know the college? Well, inherently, I am part of the college. As I have mentioned a while ago in my vision mission statement, that it is already part of my DNA. Virtually, I was a student, and then I became a tenured faculty and an administrator, etc., etc. But as far as planning is concerned, the college for the past was in a way very successful in terms of leaps and bounds. The succession of our deans actually were at the helm of such leaps and bounds, and to that we are all very thankful. What we have right now here, this theater itself, the entire structure, the developed entire developed strategy and programs of the entire college owes itself to the due diligence of the former deanship, the studentry, and the faculty concerned. Now, the issue here is, what would be the vision 3 years from now? Well, I did present that a while ago in my VMG statement, and that is actually to continue. It is it is a continuing process of development, growth, and it is a process that should not stop, should not be hindered. All hands on deck. Yung nga yung sinabi ko kanina, no? The time is now. Okay? It's continual movement. Yun lang po.
In my presentation earlier, I mentioned that I've been here for 20 years, and if you heard my story about the guavas and the projectors, I think that those are the sorts of transformations, as I said earlier, regarding our college. So I think that I know the college because of these experiences and time spent with the college throughout my 20-year career. So in terms of knowing my college, I think the vision that I presented earlier really informed by such knowledge about what we need to do in the next 3 years. I also think that when we are governing a college like CAC, I always think of it in relation to a long distance relay. And so the people who take on the administration are doing their bit towards the long-term goal of a particular college. And so I see myself as one of those who are, well, if you are going to choose me, those who will take on the baton forward, building on what has been done so far, and be forward-looking. And I see my role in this long-distance relay as trying to cover as much ground as possible. And at the end of 3 years, I hope that I've moved forward the relay in as far as I can do. So,
Thank you. Do you have questions, JR, from the audience? Okay.
Okay. Question from the audience po. Both of you mentioned innovation in, well, enriching student learning. What can we expect in terms of the technology and innovation in the college? What are your specific plans if given the position? Again, what can we expect in terms of the technology and innovation in the college? And what are your specific plans if given the position?
in terms of technology that will enhance the learning capacity of our students, I think I mentioned in my presentation earlier that our priority would be really improving the infrastructure for example, our learning facilities. Since I think last time the students noted in their assessment that there are some concerns with equipment, for example, or some of the facilities which are non-functional. So I think those are the immediate things that we need to look into, even, for example, before the opening of the semester. And then the other resources that we can use to facilitate learning, I think the university administration has done quite well. For example, in terms of the library resources and how it has been enriched, you know, the access and the resources that we can now access, but that we didn't have this when I was studying as an MA student, for example. So there's been a lot of development from university facilities which we can actually access as well. For specific innovations in the college, I think the thing is to actually look at how the existing ones are actually already facilitating these kinds of learning happening. I think to equate the quality and you know, the ways in which we learn. Parang we should not always equate the sort of quality of education with the sort of dapat state of the art lahat. Kasi if we can do with what we have now, of course, with the necessary upgrades and repairs and efforts to be up to date, and still we can do our teaching, quality teaching. So I think it's really in the effort to do quality learning and quality teaching, not so much dependent on, yung parang hindi determined by the, dapat kapag state of the art yung facilities mo ay excellent teaching or learning ka na. Parang I don't want to see it that way. I want to see it, even if we have limited resources, and yet we can still deliver the quality of teaching and learning, then we are doing very well in that case.
It would be sad to consider that obsolescence would be the downfall of this college. We all have to realize that we are in dire need of technological support. We need to forward, of course, our facilities and our equipment. But at the same time, this issue has to be addressed in terms of accessibility. When we mention the word technology, it also is always accompanied by a large peso sign. Practicality in terms of technological advancement. Can our students approve of this? Can they afford it? No, because sometimes the irony is technologically can move on so fast and we clamor to be as technologically proficient as possible, but can our students and our faculty compensate with such a race? It's becoming a race, a very tedious and expensive one. So what do I aim as far as technological advancement is concerned? Let us be particular. Let us target it, nip it immediately in the bud. Can our students afford it? Can our students understand it? Are we going to waste our time on too many trainings and later on, after we have fully understood what this technology is all about, agmob tayo manente sa baling nga technology ko nadamanan. Which in other words, yes, we are now becoming victims of obsolescence because of our clamor to move forwards technology. I completely agree with Ma'am Ruth's comment a while ago. Yes, we need technology, and of course, we also need a proper plan to address this, taking into consideration affordability, practicability, and sustainability. Thank you.
Meron bang nasa audience na gustong magtanong? Okay, magbabasa muna ako galing sa Google form. The second question says, collegiality and harmony in the workplace promote the health and well-being of its faculty and staff. How will you establish a healthy organizational climate in the college? There have been instances where junior faculty do not speak up on issues concerning them because they are afraid na mapag-initan, in quotation. What channel of communication will you open to allow them to speak out without fear of repercussions? Ulitin ko po. Collegiality and harmony in the workplace promote the health and well-being of its faculty and staff. How will you establish a healthy organizational climate in the college? There have been instances where junior faculty do not speak up on issues concerning them because they are afraid na mapag-initan. What channel of communication will you open to allow them to speak out without fear of repercussions?
We should first, in order to address this, we have to really put into perspective a reinforcement of accountabilities as far as professionalism and faculty objectives are concerned. We strive to breed an environment which is open, based on open communication, based on mutual respect, based on inclusivity per se. But at the same time, we have to really nip it in the bud that we are here as teachers. And we can never, ever arrive at our objectives if we can never learn to work with each other. Now, how are we supposed to do this? Basic. Regular check-ins with faculty and students. The dean's office should always be open for this. There is always an ear to listen to both faculty, students, and the non-teaching staff. There are issues where are we going to tolerate bad, how should I say this, uh, indicators of bad attitudes towards faculty, etc., etc. Now, the issue here is plain and simple. Plain and simple, but I'm forgetting my answer already. Okay. It's plain and simple. Regular checks, right? For the faculty, the student, and the entire administration to understand that the dean is there. The dean is ever present. The dean is ready to listen, and the dean is willing to move forward with these matters already produces a sense of security for the studentry, for the faculty, and the administration. Thank you very much.
I think earlier in my priority one, I mentioned this specifically in terms of faculty empowerment. And, one of the things that I said in that part of my presentation is that I will foster that, the idea of full and open communication, which is of course imperative to us, because we are the College of Arts and Communication. So I think that is part of that's part of the presentation that I said earlier. Na the faculty, we should have professional socialization. We're not just talking about, we have those venues. So I said I'm going to call these meetings, organize them so that we have venues to talk about what are ano yung concerns natin, especially with teaching, and we're going to talk about our experiences. And so this is an avenue for us to strengthen our collegial bonds. So as a college, we have all those mechanisms of support. And as dean, I think I'm approachable enough as a person that you can anytime drop in my office or send me a messenger chat. I don't mind all those possible avenues where you can contact me if there is anything that you wish to talk to me about, especially in relation to our functions as faculty. So I think the idea of, I think in our college we have this bond naman. I think it's really a matter of, kasi nga, di ba, nung pandemic years, we're isolated, we have our own gadgets, ganun na. So parang maybe that had an impact in the way we need to regroup in terms of our communal, collective conversation. So I think maybe those are the kinds of things that will encourage this sort of supportive environment, and that nobody is fearful that there's going to be a repercussion for whatever idea it is that they want to express. So, especially the junior faculty, I think yung pag-approach sa college administration is as much your right as senior faculty's right to approach. There is no difference in terms of how you approach your administrators, not because of your rank, because we are all part of an academic staff.
Thank you. Wala pa yatang other questions from the floor, so I will continue reading from the Google questions. The next question, also again for both nominees. Sabi niya, people person ba ang bawat nominee? Gaano kahalaga ang trait na ito sa isang leader? Paano nila pupunan ito kung di sila people-oriented? Again, people person ba ang bawat nominee? Gaano kahalaga ang trait na ito sa isang leader? Paano nila pupunan ito kung di sila people-oriented?
Kung ang tanong ay people-oriented ba ako? Ang sagot ko naman, I think naman ako ay people-oriented as an individual. At naisip ko na ang pagiging people-oriented is a respect for individuals. And I do respect individuals, their individual capacities, and what they can contribute to our college and to our university. And I am profoundly I think that the dignity of an individual is something that I want, that I respect and enable. So kung people person ako sa ganong aspeto, so yes, I am a people person. Siguro kung yung tanong ay people person in terms of approachable ka ba, ganyan, pwede ka bang kausapin? Sa palagay ko naman, pwede naman akong kausapin ng kahit sino sa college natin. At kung ang idea ng people person ay concerned ba ako sa iyong development as a faculty member, yes, I'm concerned with your development. I'm concerned that you get the opportunities that you should have in order for you to advance in your career. I'm a people person in terms of, if somebody is doing well, like, they're doing IPAs and things like that, and I'm happy for them, and I wish them more, keep them coming, yung mga ganyan. So I think those are the ways in which I define the idea of a people person. So yes, I am a people person, if that is the question being asked here.
The last time I checked, I am a person. Therefore, I have the capability to be a people person. Ayan, okay. It's a good question, actually. But being a people person isn't simply implying that you can lend an open ear, you're willing to listen, but it also implies that you are also sensitive and open to criticism. You have the values of trying to be, well, more or less balanced in terms of your views. And how do you treat your people? Well, I would usually like to quote either Niccolo Machiavelli or Sun Tzu, if you want your soldiers to follow you to the depths of hell, you should first forge a nature of love. And that is what I actually want to have as part of an ideal of this college. We are a family. And as part of a family, of course, hindi naman natin maiiwasan na may mag-aaway, may nagkakaasaran, but at the end of the day, we should refocus. We should unwind and go back to this objective that we are here to learn together, we are here to work together, and we are here to forge an environment of oneness, unity, and wholeness. Thank you.
JR, questions from the floor, please.
This question is addressed to Professor Hulerbal. First, in terms of incentives as output and augmentation of security personnel, how will you operationalize these? Again, in terms of incentives as outputs and augmentation of security personnel, how will you operationalize these?
Okay. As far as incentives, incentives on output is concerned, this is already in the books. No? We have written guidelines concerning this. But the thing is, we really need to really address this by putting more attention on necessary paperworks, immediacy of such, signatories, etc., etc. There are rules guiding this, and what I'm trying to imply is we need to follow this, we need to reiterate it, and we should never forget about this. Of course, incentives, if there is a possibility to obtain budget, I would actually like to increase certain incentives as far as research output is concerned, because this would do well as far as encouraging the entire faculty, the studentry, as far as producing more is concerned. And I'm not simply talking about financial matters here as far as rewards are concerned. The idea of being recognized, the idea of being supported by your college, to be driven forth, supported, encouraged, already means a lot for the individual, specifically for those who are producing these. Marami po kasi tayong nakikitang mga co-faculty at mga estudyante na ang dami-daming trabaho na ginagawa. And at the same time, what drives them? Of course, they need also help from us. And this is something that we want to forge as a very relevant environment, a research culture, should I say, for our college. Now, as far as the augmentation, we need more than one Manong Ricky. We need 2, 3 Manong Ricky, if possible. But here's the thing, where do we assess it? Where do we put it into perspective? Of course, we have to plan ahead as far as the augmentation of security services is concerned. We really have to replan and retool our PPMP. Yan, uunahin na natin doon. Tignan natin kung meron bang aabot na budget para dito. I am not guaranteeing that we can achieve this immediately, but we have to do this in increments. We have to start with 1. And later on, if it's effective, if we have good feedback concerning it, let's go to 2. and etc., etc. Okay.
Thank you, sir. And for Professor Tindaan, what are your ideas, or would you have any ideas on how these, in relation to the first question, I think, could be operationalized or concretely achieved?
If you're pertaining to a sort of security problem, is this the query? Because in my presentation, I was not very particular on this concern because I perceive that there is no necessarily no heightened security threat on campus and in our college. And so I did not you know, put it in priority. But if the students feel, or any part of the constituents of the college will, at some point during the next term, will, for example, contact me and you know, or seek the attention of the office of the dean in relation to some sort of danger, some life-threatening situation that they are in, then it is my responsibility as head, and because the students approach me on this matter, then I will have to do something about that. And the first response, of course, is to ensure that our students will not be in a situation where their life is in danger. And therefore, those kinds of security measures, if necessary, will have to be discussed, especially with the relevant university offices. If you're talking about like campus security ba, yung question, sa palagay ko naman, or at least I feel that safe naman tayo sa campus, di ba? Unless there is an, you know, an indicator that there is no safety on campus. So I feel that this concern is something na it's something na hindi ko nalagay sa aking vision because I didn't feel that there is dun nga, a heightened threat in relation to this particular concern. So if you're talking about like safety in terms of our infrastructure, ganyan, because I remember in the July 1 assessment, some students were concerned about mga yung structural, yung railings, yung mga ganon, kasi parang they feel na baka mahulog tayo, yung mga ganon. So I think those kinds of concerns can be discussed with our VCA, for example, or the concerned offices in relation to how these matters can be acted on to ensure that we are safe in relation to our campus spaces.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, we move on to another question from the Google form. What is your vision for lecturers in the college? How will you assign faculty items in a manner that avoids insinuations of favoritism and tokenism? Again, what is your vision for lecturers in the college? How will you assign faculty items in a manner that avoids insinuation of favoritism and tokenism?
I think the question pertains to two issues. So the first one is on how do you treat like lecturers, and the other one is on item. Kasi tama ba? Magkahiwalay na concern yon. So I want to address the lecturer question first. So if you look at the rationale for hiring lecturers, it's because the current academic staff of a particular department, for example, are not currently able to accommodate yung mga course offerings natin. So, kasi kunwari lahat tayo full load na, or minsan nga overload na tayo, tapos meron pang kailangan pang i-load. So, in that instance, we need the services of lecturer or lecturers. So because there is a particular need for us to deliver or to serve, so we need the services of lecturers. So in that sense, making decisions of hiring lecturers, of course, is dependent on, do we need lecturers? tayo ba na regular staff ay hindi ba natin ma-accommodate yung workload na kasi kailangan nating i-service sa mga estudyante natin. Kung hindi na talaga kaya, then we go to the lecturer option. So I think yun naman yung rationale for hiring lecturers. Yung pangalawa naman on the item, like how do you assign the items to specific faculty? The assignment of items, of course, there are so many considerations when we assign items. It's never an arbitrary decision. It's never a decision that you take lightly because you are aware that it's going to have implications on somebody else's like immediately economic life, for example, or their plans as an individual. So the assigning of items is something which is taken up very seriously. Kanino i-assign ito at bakit sa kanya? And we are guided by certain guidelines and regulations. We are guided by department needs, by college needs. We are guided by our direction. So for example, in our BA Language and Literature program, how do we look at this program progressing, and how do we consider the qualifications and credentials of faculty members who are not yet on an item, and we take all these considerations in making up our minds kung kanino ilalagay yung item. And just to make a note that the assignment of an item is never really permanent unless you become tenured. Ibig sabihin, kung inassign yung isang item sa isang faculty, it is a temporary thing in the meantime. And of course, we want to see sana na yung inassignan natin ng item is somebody who we want to invest in and develop because we see the potential in this person contributing to the mandate of our college and into the services that we need to deliver for our degree programs.
I actually started out as a lecturer, and what really irks me as far as being a lecturer concerned is the idea of precarity in terms of the longevity of your service. Baka pagkatapos ng semester na to, bibigyan ka na naman ng mahiwagang sulat na nagsasabing salamat sa iyong serbisyo. Yes, I've been through this, but the idea here is plain and simple. As employed as part of the lecturer staff, I have already been oriented on the nature of my service to this institution. And sometimes this has to be, again, regularly, the employee has to be regularly informed concerning this. If you do well, if there is a need, then good opportunities will open for you. If not, thank you for your service. Tanggap natin ito. It's a regular part of being part of the workforce, especially under government service. Now, as far as the next question is concerned, as tenure, item distribution, yes, there are issues that arise as far as item distribution and assignment is concerned. If there are instances that there is no strict adherence to the rules and regulations set forth by the faculty manual. Ang nais ko lang naman kasing sasabihin dito ay kailangan nating pagtuunan ng pansin na binibigyan ng karampatang atensyon ang pagsunod sa nakasaad ng mga alituntunin tungkol sa pagsunod ng promotional standards as far as item distribution is concerned. Of course, sasailalim po yan sa tamang assessment, sasailalim po yan sa needs assessment at marami pang iba. Ngunit, kung meron mang mga issue na nagsasaad na kung saan, and God forbid this does not happen, that there are certain faculty members who feel that there is certain terms of the distribution of items to be unfairly and inappropriately made, we will address this together as a college. We open it to a proper discourse venue. Yun lang po. Salamat po.
Before I read the question on paper, who would like to raise your hand? And then ask your question. Anyone po? Hey. Kindly introduce na lang po.
Gilbert Peralta from College of Science. So as part of UP Baguio community, any plans in connection with collaboration with the other colleges?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Gilbert, I've been working with people in other colleges. For example, from the College of Science, I have some project with VC Rose last year, last year in relation to COVID response of Baguio LGU. And I also work with Professor Alangi in relation to landslide knowledge center development. So I'd like to say that we have a very close relationship with the College of Science and Soksai, of course, as well. And I'm thinking that there's always a perception that the humanities and the sciences are not compatible. We are very too far from each other. But in working with these projects, I realized that we actually share some interests. So, kunwari yung may project sa inyo sa math noon na yung tungkol sa weaving at saka yung algorithm ng weaving, parang ganon. And then I'm thinking, pwede rin naman sa amin sa humanities, why don't we also look at the folklore of weaving, the literary traditions that are related to weaving, parang ganon. So we are looking at this like interdisciplinary understanding of one phenomenon. So I think maybe we can look at those possible projects that we can work on. I'm thinking immediately sa mga DRRM at saka yung mga, parang sina Ma'am Edna doon sina Ma'am Rizabel doon sa project ninyo on COVID before. And for example, you're looking at the science of the COVID, and then maybe in the humanities, we're looking at the human response or the sort of literary and artistic responses to the COVID phenomenon. And maybe if we can link these sorts of understandings from different disciplinal perspectives, then I think maybe that's a great way of innovating on our research production in the university, no longer just sort of isolated disciplinal outputs, but we're really pursuing the sort of more holistic understanding of certain phenomena of our common interests.
The size of our college unit implies that it is actually an advantage in terms of working together is concerned. Maraming nagsasabi sa akin na buti pa yung UP Baguio. Agaan mo amin di teacher. Yung mga kakakilala silang lahat. Well, I'm not trying to imply that we compare with other college units, but we have this intrinsic bond. University of the Philippines Baguio has its foundations on the colleges working together as far as projects are concerned. And this is an environment that we would also like to sustain, and we would like to continue to the future. Of course, who am I to question and doubt our co-working abilities with the other colleges? It is our bread and butter. I will say this, frankly, it is the cornerstone of what this university is all about, and that is working together. Collaboration is important. That is how we find purpose together, and that is how we strive and survive moving forwards towards the future. Marami na tayong mga proyektong ginawa na magkakasapi po tayong lahat. At one of the foundations here is, of course, the Cordillera Studies Center. A perfect avenue for all the colleges to work at the same time. But I'm not also implying that I will actually deny the certain potential of our college streamlining this, headlining this, and starting the projects also. Ang masasabi ko lamang, if there are members of the other colleges here, of course, CAC is always willing to collaborate. CAC is always willing to work because at the end, we are a family. Thank you.
Okay, let me read the question from an audience. How do you, to both nominees po, how do you plan to address the bloating student-teacher ratio? The density could be detrimental to the learning of the students and the load of faculty, since it has been normalized or expected that faculty should handle more than 35 students or handle overload subjects. Again, the question is, how do you plan to address the bloating student-teacher ratio?
Bloating in terms of classroom student size?
Perhaps, sir. Class
Okay.
size,
May-
yes.
Class size, ano? I've been teaching PI 100 for almost 15 years. And an issue here is TP. Tuwing enrollment, nandyan na, may kumakatok na sa opisina ko, Sir, TP. Anong TP? Toilet paper? But here's the thing, and I learned this from our senior faculty. You never turn away a student. Sometimes I'm often criticized for having a bloated classroom of 65 students for a subject that doesn't even have a course multiplier. I have heard faculty members say, "Are you crazy? You can divide it into 2 subjects." But then again, at the end of the day, you have to be at par with what the student is experiencing. Sometimes they need this schedule. They need it so bad that it is detrimental to how they fare well in graduating immediately. I am not very particular with class size. But then again, there are also factors that imply that class size is important. For a classroom that is designed for 30 and you overpack it with 65, lahat ng amoy naghahalo-halo na dyan, primarily coming from the teacher. But then at the end of the day, I will say this, of course, we have to address this with proper infrastructure. Bigger classrooms, yes. More facilities, of course. But while we are still planning ahead in terms of addressing this, I would like to imply that originally, naturally, I am a teacher and my objective is to always teach, with an incentive implying that no student should be left behind. Thank you.
Hello. This idea of bloated classes. When I was secretary, we dealt with this with concerns ng mga ganyan. So kaya sinasabi ko, meron pa rin pala tayong ganong concern hanggang ngayon. And the idea of a bloated classroom, I think, is an indicator of something which we need to look at. So it's not as simple as may bloated na classroom dahil kulang ang teacher or kulang ang classroom, parang ganon. Merong ang dami mong factors na titignan, bakit kaya tayo dumating sa sitwasyon na bloated ang classroom. Isa siguro sa mga consideration ay yung idea ng sometimes, kung hindi tayo natatapos on time na mga estudyante, so makikisabay tayo doon sa mga kukuha na nung course na yon sa kanilang regular na semestre. So ibig sabihin, nadodoble yung demand ng isang klase dahil meron ng mga dumagdag para kunin yung mga subject na yon. So isang possible instance yon, yung mga ganong klaseng consideration. Pwede rin kunwari na tayo kasi sa CAC, meron tayong mga servicing na GE, di ba? So yung kunwari yung PI 100, COM 11, yung mga sa COM 10 na ba ang tawag ngayon? Oo, yung mga so servicing. So we are servicing yung mga needs ng other colleges. So for example lang to, Gilbert. Sa College of Science, they decided na tumanggap ng mas maraming blocks ng freshmen. Kasi I think that's part of their plan. And then the consequence of that, or the implication on us as a servicing college for the GE, meron siyang implication sa atin. Kasi kailangan na nating i-service yung additional na block ng estudyante na tinanggap ng kunwari ng CS or ng CSS. So meron siyang consequence sa atin as a servicing college, especially in RGE. So kung yung pagkaka-bloat ng classroom, tignan natin yung mga ganitong, where is it coming from? and therefore the solutions that we can come up with in relation to how these things can be lesson kunwari na sana walang bloated classrooms ay kailangan ng pakikipag-usap doon sa tatlong college secretaries ng mga colleges to see this in a sort of more macro in relation to our micro situation.
You po?
Let me read another question from the Google form. Sabi niya, mental health is a critical issue for all members of the CAC community. Can you elaborate on how you would integrate mental health support services into your vision for the overall well-being of the college and its members? Mental health is a critical issue for all members of the CAC community. Can you elaborate on how you would integrate mental health support services into your vision for the overall well-being of the college and its members?
I actually took marginal notes concerning my mission vision a while ago, and this is actually part and parcel of what I was trying to focus on a while ago. So let me just reiterate by reading the following. Of course, we should always arrive at a people-centric approach, regular consultations and check-ins. Kailangan po yan. Next, we should promote open communication and mental health awareness. Should be part of a program. Inclusive environment, ang ating tatahakin. Everyone should be heard. I think I have continually mentioned this a while ago as far as the VMG is concerned. And as far as trying to target mental awareness needs of the studentry, of the faculty, and of the non-teaching staff, we should always have a swift approach and to address roots and symptoms immediately. And finally, we should, and as I said, I mentioned this a while ago, we should always emphasize on accountability and of course, educating the entire studentry on policies concerning this. I'm not trying to imply that the university already lacks certain rules and regulations concerning this, but it is actually a drawing forth, putting it into perspective, popularizing it, making it overtly accessible for all in this university, and specifically the college. Thank you.
In relation to, of course, we appreciate that mental health, or good mental health is going to enable us to deliver our functions as faculty members. And I am aware that the university has done some efforts, lalo na nga nung pandemic period tayo, meron namang mga responses to make sure that our mental health is safeguarded. So for example, there are programs which were conceptualized by the university administration to respond to this concern. So di ba the Office of Counseling and Guidance, they have like a program, I think it's called Wasdin Sumya program, in which they offer, of course, they are professionally trained to respond to our concerns in relation to our mental health. But in addition to these programs, and I think the like SOCSI and the psychology faculty at that time, they were also offering some help in relation to our mental health concerns. So meron namang tayong mga in place na mga mechanisms in which we can access, and these are professionals who were trained to respond to this particular concerns of ours. But to on top of all those sort of official programs or mechanisms, if the Office of the Dean, I think earlier I mentioned in my presentation that I'm going, and I'm very particular about the organization of faculty meetings, diba, to talk about, let's say, our concern in terms of teaching. Kasi baka yung mental health concerns natin ay nanggagaling dun sa challenges natin in terms of handling our classes or responding to the sort of intellectual rigors of our function as a faculty. And so I think it will be addressed in this, sabi ko kanina, supportive, collegial environment where we can freely talk about those sorts of challenges which may be causing us some concerns regarding our health. And if a faculty member needs to, sabi ko nga, to talk to the dean, then she's always available in the office and in different means. Marami na tayong mechanism to contact our leaders to express if there are certain concerns in mental health, for example, that we need to express. And perhaps also express what sorts of needs or sorts of ano kaya yung gusto natin na or sinasuggest natin na maaring gawin, kunwari ng Office of the Dean, para ma-manage natin ang mga challenges na ganito.
Wala daw online question. Go ahead.
Okay, question from the audience, addressed to the both nominees. Recently, there has been a concern about miscommunication of subject and or courses to be taken by students that causes delay in graduating on time, let alone frustrations from students. How do you plan to address this moving forward?
I think part of answering that problem actually lies also with the student, actually. If the student has his or her records with her, updates it regularly, then these matters will be readily avoided. So, as part of the college, if a potential dean, I highly encourage the institutionalization of this matter in order for the students. Let us revive the checklist. Right? Why did we do away with this when in fact it was so crucial, it was so essential? Maiwan na ng estudyante lahat ng notebook niya, basta meron yung checklist, masaya pa rin siya. Ganun yung mga estudyante noon. Yes, that is one suggestion actually. Let us bring back accountability to the student. Let them actually be part of this process which involves them readily with as far as checks and balances with their courses and enrollment is concerned. Ayun lang po.
I agree with Ayo on that. No, if you're the student, then of course it's your responsibility na bantayan kung yung mga courses ba na ini-enroll mo ay tama. So parang you monitor yourself. Parang it's really part of your academic development. But of course, on the other hand, we also, the advisor also has a shared responsibility to also monitor then to keep yung, I think we still have our checklist. Parang nagbago lang siya ng form kasi dati we have the checklist physical and then we fill up natin siya every semester. But now we are more, so meron na tayong mga Google form na doon na natin siya. So I think we're still using that as a mechanism for monitoring which courses to take, which have been taken, although we digitalized it. And it's a shared responsibility nga na si student, minomonitor sarili mo, and then the advisor also monitor. So in this process of shared responsibility, we hope that nawala na sanang mga ganong mga misunderstanding or na hindi pala natin nabantayan. And I think with what you mentioned as a concern now, we become more and more vigilant na hindi na maulit yung mga ganito kasi napagdaanan na natin. And therefore, we have, meron tayong learning dito sa mga gantong unfortunate incidents. At sa susunod ay mas mababantayan pa natin na tama yung mga kinukuhang subject at walang mga gantong klaseng errors.
I think 11:50 na, no? Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, tatanungin ko na yung huling tanong. Pero huwag kayong mag-alala kasi yung mga tanong na hindi nasagot ng ating nominees ngayong umaga, ibibigay namin lahat sa kanila para they can reflect on these questions and maybe incorporate it as well in their plans for the college, no? Whoever gets selected as dean. So ito yung tanong, again, para sa kanilang dalawa. The culture of any organization is perhaps shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. What are you willing to tolerate? The culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. What are you willing to tolerate? Igaling to sa Google form ng questions.
For me, I will not tolerate any bad behavior. I think that's That's a non-negotiable because we are in a professional space and we are governed by ethical practice of our profession. So I think every faculty knows that naman. And therefore, we are regulated. We regulate our behavior in terms of these common values that we as professionals would be very aware of. So in my administration, I will make sure that no one should be discriminated, no one should be bullied, no one should be talked down. We all behave in a civilized manner. We all behave in professional manner. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to be friends with each other, but anytime there is work to be done, if we need to work for a particular task, then our focus is the task that needs to be accomplished, not our individual likings of each other or our differences in personality or preferences. So in my administration is zero tolerance to unethical behavior, unprofessional behavior. We'll always focus, and I would really want that our college is, sabi ko nga kanina, it's a collegial working space where we pursue our professional interest and fulfill the functions of being an academic staff.
The words worst and tolerance should not even be mentioned in one sentence. Tama po yung sinabi ni Professor Tindaan. I will not tolerate this also. Now, it's very basic in all government interview procedures when you apply for a position. How well do you work? Oh, do you work well with others? Yan, yung mga tanong na yan. And if, of course, generically they would say, I work well with others. And then all of a sudden you come here and then you show worst behavior, then that is already a breach of what you have promised as part of your interview. Now, I do agree. The maintenance of professionalism under these corridors is very fundamental and is very essential. But of course, it also goes with trying to cultivate a culture of maturity, strictness, firmness, at the same time balancing with equality and understanding. Yes, there are people who have bad, intolerable instances as far as the workplace is concerned. And I will say this firsthand based on experience. It is unavoidable. But then again, do we understand where this is stemming from? There has to be an immediate intervention. Yun nga yung sinabi ko kanina eh. There has to be a reiteration of accountability. Bakit palaging mainit ang ulo mo? Anong problema? Yun pala, wala silang ulam sa bahay kanina. O yun pala. We strive to open lines of communication. Okay, you are already employed and all of a sudden you exhibit bad feelings and bad thoughts about your faculty. It can be repaired. I will not stand up and immediately say, get out of here, your ass is fired. Kunakon. No, it can still be managed. It can still be. It's never too late, right? Okay, yun lang po. Last question na po ba yun?
Oo.
Ay,
So
salamat.
kung wala po bang ulam, magpapapanda po kayo.
Tama.
For clarification lang po.
Panda.
Panda is key. Okay. Maraming salamat po sa ating dalawang nominees. Very game po silang sagutin ang ating mga tanong. Wala silang tanong na tinanggihan at very good po lahat yung mga sagot nila. I hope po yung mga nagpadala ng mga tanong ay satisfied kayo sa sagot ng ating dalawang nominees. At kagaya ng nabanggit ko kanina, yung mga tanong na hindi namin nabasa kasi marami pong pumasok from Google at marami rin pong hawak si JR, bibigay po namin yung kopya sa kanila. Nais po naming pasalamatan on behalf of the committee, our two nominees, of course. At we wish you both well and pray that whoever gets to lead CAC for the next 3 years will only have the welfare of the college in mind. And thank you for accepting the challenge of deanship and offering yourselves to serve CAC and the UPB community. Nagpapasalamat din po kami sa SNO under the direction of Kuya Kim, Mark, and Rose na tumulong mag-set up ngayon. Si Kuya Marvin in-import namin from HKP. Of course, OPA for documentation and UPB administrators who are present today. faculty, staff, students, and all stakeholders, both on-site and online, who are with us this morning. And as we end today's activity, we now officially announce the opening of the Google form to accept statements of affirmation or support for our nominees. The form is open to members of the college assembly. So for the students, the student representatives will have access to the Google form. The form will open today and will close at 5 p.m. on Saturday, 13 July. Again, thank you very much. Tumayo po tayong lahat para sa pag-awit ng UP Hymn. Maraming salamat po. Meron pa po yatang merienda doon sa labas. Pwede pong mag-sharon.